I'm going to be looking now at Berens, Hermann Berens, the care of the left hand, or the training of the left hand, if you will, Opus 89, a set of exercises for the left hand, composed, or published rather, in 1870. So that's just a little bit before Hannen. Hannen was 1873, here's 1870. And there's a lot of similarities between Hannen and Berens. Berens actually a little bit more varied, and I think perhaps a little bit more interesting. And again, it brings up the question, do we need to do exercises such as this for the left hand? Well, if I'm honest with you, I never did in my training. This has never been part of my training. However, I do think that exercises such as these can be very useful if they are done well. And this is the whole point of any exercise you do. If you do it well, it can serve you. If you do it for a good reason, it can serve you. If you do it badly or waste too much time on it, then you get a negative result back. So we're going to look a little bit now at number one, a good place to start. There are 46 exercises in this publication and 25 studies for the left hand. So the first one looks a little dry. All it is scales, and in fact it's exactly the same as Hannen number 38. If you check your Hannen, this is the same thing. So I'm wondering if perhaps Berens dreamt this up first, but it's just scales. And then down. You get the idea there. So let's just look and see what's involved in that. Well, what we want to do, first of all, is move in such a way that the fifth finger feels empowered rather than weak. So the last thing I want to do is to lift my fifth finger. That's not what we're doing at all. So if I want to get a good, strong sense of my fifth finger, and this is marked fortissimo, by the way, I would first start it lightly, lighter, and there are basically two ways that I can have that fifth finger feel strong. One is to thrust up against it so that I generate propulsion that takes in the next 5 notes. And up. So if you notice what happens, the relationship between the thumb and the next fifth finger, if I just take the thumb and the fifth finger, there's a feeling of down up. So down up. So I'm getting the power behind my fifth finger, not from the finger, but from thinking of the finger as an extension of my arm and propelling upwards. I'm now looking at Hermann Berens' studies, which is different from exercise. We've got to remember the difference between a study and an exercise. An exercise is a short, simple to remember contraption, whereas a study has much more musical content, much more musical value, usually got a little bit more form and structure to it and variety to it. So we tend to play studies with more musical shaping, with more musical intention. And exercises, even though we always need to make sure we're using good sound and obviously good technique, they're a little drier. So what I'm going to do with these studies is I'm going to use pedal, because the pedal is there for the resonance and for the sound, and I'm going to try and make them unmechanical, if that's possible, given that they do tend to focus on specific mechanical aspects. So now let's look and see how I'm moving. Old school ways of doing this, if you have been used to Hannen and following the instructions in Hannen, you'd be lifting the fingers up high and with precision, which is not what we do nowadays. At least it's not what I advocate doing. It would look something like this. And I'm already feeling tension in my hand and in my arm, especially because I'm holding down my fifth finger. So my way of mapping this, there's two possible ways of doing it as I see it. Up. If I hoist myself up, the arm hoists on the pinky against the key, up. I generate propulsion, which I can use to cross the keyboard. Up, up. And you see I've got there a little wrist circle effectively. So I'm moving in circles. For practice, I would suggest and recommend shifting the accents. So instead of accenting the first note, I would practice accenting the second note. And then, so I'm thinking 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to try that, landing on putting the accent on the thumb. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And then finally, 2, 3, 4, 1. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And that's a very valuable way of practicing passages like this, where each finger gets the chance to be the leader, if you will. So even though the strong beat is eventually going to be the fifth finger.